Hi, everyone. I want to talk to you today about how to design a good table. I'm going to use Google Sheets, or excuse me, Google Docs as my table design medium of choice. But really, honestly, this is more about good design principles in general and how to make things look nice and cohesive. And within that, we're going to talk about tables, of course, and I'll show you how tables work in Google Docs, which is not all that hard, and then how to make them for the stats class. So let's do that. So let me share my doc screen here. Um, so here I've got a fresh Google Doc, right? I just went to Google Docs and did a new document. And there we go. So what I want to do is I'm going to, oh, excuse me, let me switch share to here. I'm gonna make this table. I made this one in Word here, but I'm gonna make this table in Google Docs to show you how that works, because not everybody has access to Word, and everybody does have access to Google Docs. So the first thing I want to notice is, so this is the table from uh, the poorly designed study of grades that I made up for the first worksheet. And so this was the porter who was gathering data on grades of students, and he had 4 categories of grades: A, B, C, and then failing, which is D or F together, and then also a category for no answer, and then we want to include a total, and we want frequency, relative frequency, cumulative frequency, and cumulative relative frequency. So that means that here's the way you want to think of this. I have 5 categories here: A, B, C, D or F, and no answer. And then I need a header row and a total row. So that means that I need 7 rows, and then I need grade, and then 4 columns: frequency, relative frequency, cumulative frequency, and cumulative relative frequency. So I need 5 columns. So I need 7 rows, 5 columns. So let's go back to Google Docs and do that. Make a table like that. All right, so I'm here. I'm going to go to Insert and Table. And when I do that, it'll bring up this little thing that lets me make it however big, however I want. So I want 7 rows and 5 columns. And so there we go. Now we can adjust the size of these things. Like if I click here, it'll let me move these left or right. I'm just going to ignore that for now. We'll fix it all up later. I just want to type in things right now. So in general, when you're making things, what you really want to do is get all the raw information on there and then make it pretty later, right? So I've got my table. It's a bunch of squares. I'm not going to do anything with colors or anything like that for right now. I'm just going to get everything in. So I want a grade column. I want a frequency, relative frequency, cumulative frequency, and cumulative relative frequency. Okay. And then I'm going to put in the various categories: A, B, C, D, F, no answer. And then I wanted a total row as well. And then I'm going to put everything in and worry about making it look nice later. So yeah, so we had frequency. I believe this was what, 10. Let's go down 7, 5. 10, 7, 4, 5. Was that what it is? 4, 5, 10. So let's go have a quick look, because I actually don't remember. 10, 7, 4, 5, 10. Oh, I do remember. Nice. All right, and there were 36 of these. And then the relative frequencies, I'll worry about putting them in decimal. Well, I guess I might as well put them in decimal here, since I've got them all. We had 0.2778, 0.1944. I'm not going to keep switching back and forth. I'm just going to put these all in while you're not watching there. 0.2778, 0.1994. Is that what it was? 944. Excuse me, rather than 9444. 4 ones, and then this guy is 1.38, not 0.1389. 0.389, and then the last one was 0.2778 again. 0.2778. So yeah, sorry about the bad video there. I just wanted to get it all in. So I've got all that in there. And then this, of course, is 1, right? The total relative frequency is 100% because that includes everything. All right, so the cumulative frequency, I'm just going to add those things up. So 10, 17, 21, 26, 36, and of course 36 is total. And then the cumulative relative frequency, here, let's go ahead and put those in. We got 2778, 4722, 0.2778, 0.4722, 533, 0.533, 0.7222, 0.7222, and of course 1. And 1. All right. So now I have all of the information in there that I wanted, right? So now it's time to make it look nice. This is an acceptable table, but like this, if you put this in a document, people's eyes are going to glaze over when they go over this. So what you really want to do is get good at making your table friendly to the eye. So here is how you do that. Number one, things that are functionally different should be visually different. So the things that are functionally different here are the headers, which are describing what's in the columns, the categories, and then the totals, right? Those are all different, and then the data is itself different, right? The data is distinct from all that stuff. So that means that those things that are describing what are in the columns and rows should be visually similar in some way. Generally, I like to use color to make them similar. So I'm going to make it all blue. I like blue. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to change the background color and make the text white. So I'm going to make the background some dark color. So if you highlight things and then right click, it'll bring up this whole context menu with all kinds of stuff in it. And I'm going to go to table properties, because that's where I can change the background color. Cell background color is currently white. I'm going to make it a dark blue. And by the way, when you're doing this, you want to generally make things a little darker than you think looks good. Like, I think this looks pretty good. This will not show up very well. I want something bolder and darker, and that's generally the direction you want to go. Don't be mild with this. Cell vertical alignment. So this is where things are vertically in the cell, and I want to make that in the middle, so it centers everything. I'm not going to worry about these things for right now. I'm just going to hit OK. All right, now notice, of course, I can't see anything, right? That's completely unreadable. So what I'm going to do now is change the text color to white. So bright white there. And then I'm going to make it bold and italic and make it a little bit bigger. Right, and I'm going to keep all these things in mind. I'm going to use, there, that looks pretty good. Bolding and italicizing as my signifiers of information, sort of like like this is a thing that's describing what's in this row or column. So when I do that here, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to make this bold and italic and bigger. 15, I think these were 14s, right? Yeah, those are 14. So I want to make this. And so in that way, it looks unified. Things that were informative are now bigger than the body of the table, or they're now more visually, they're bigger. And so they look more alike, right? And so what you might notice is that things that look alike, your brain naturally thinks, I bet these things function alike too. And you want to take advantage of that. When you're designing something, you want to think to yourself, well, how did I make that thing look when I have this similar thing to it? I should make it look the same way, or not exactly the same, but similar, right? And because I've done blue on white here, I'm also going to center these. I believe you can do that with Control E. It's also here, align center like that. So now everything's centered up. And with these guys, since this is blue on white, I'm going to make this white on blue. And that's, or excuse me, this is white on blue. I'm going to make this blue on white. So I'm going to choose that same blue that I used, was this one, for the text there. And now notice that this and this seem much more similar to each other. And these things seem much more similar to each other as well. I'm also going to center these. I think that looks prettier. You can argue whether I'm wrong on this one here. Right, I'm not sure that looks better, but I like my tables centered like that. And then I'm going to bold and italicize these things as well, because they are distinct from the text, or they're distinct from the data in the table. And this is a more eye-catching table. I think you might argue that this is a little bit small here, and maybe I should make that a little bit bigger, just so it's I don't know, more, it jumps out at you more. But of course, it's all relative to the size of the other things in the table. But anyway, that's the point I wanted to make. The way you want to make your tables is you want the headers and the other, like the row headers and column headers, to be visually similar and visually distinct from the data. And you want the data to be not exactly the star of the show, because it seems counterintuitive, but the data itself is kind of not as important as the things that tell you what's in the table, right? If I want to know how many people got C's, I can go look for that. But I'm not going to try to absorb all of these numbers at once. What I'm going to do is, when I'm trying to digest what's in the table, I'm going to read what things are in the table, and then I can go look for whatever I want within there. So interestingly, the important part of a table is the headers. I have people who will just include this stuff in a table, and that's not a good idea. Don't make a table unless you're putting headers on everything. And ideally, and maybe even a title too, right? It's possible that I should have a title up here. So let's see if I can do that. So if I go here and I right click, I'm going to insert a row above this, right? And it's all dark blue because it's taking the formatting from the thing that I'm doing there, or from the thing it came from. And I'm going to go here and I want to merge these cells together. So I actually don't know where that command is. I'm going to right click and go look for it. It's merge cells. This is a very common table command. So if you want to make one big cell out of a bunch of little ones, you want to merge. And then I'm going to type this in here, SBCC statistics, right? Not a very accurate title, because this isn't actually remember, it didn't do a good job of actually capturing the data. And I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. And one thing that you can do that's a little bit subtle is change the font to make things seem a little bit different. So here I've got a font of Arial, which is what it's called, a sans-serif font. Sans means without, it's French for without. Serifs are the little tails that you'll see, like serif is another way to pronounce that. You notice like the little bits on the bottom of the F and the back of the B. Those are serifs. And Arial is a sans-serif font, which means that it doesn't have those things. If you're using a sans-serif font, you should continue using a sans-serif font. Don't mix them. It's really messy. It looks terrible if you do. So if you want to make it look a little bit different, another popular sans-serif font in the default in Word is Calibri. So this, if I do that, it sets it apart a little bit, but it's actually hard when you're seeing it to describe how exactly that's different. But it's a different font. It looks a little bit different, and so it's I don't know. It's visually distinct in a way that's very subtle. If you want to do that, don't mix too many fonts. Like, don't put more than 2 fonts in anything. That looks really bad. But using 2 is okay if they're visually similar. Anyway, so there I've got a perfectly reasonable table. This is the most common way to show qualitative data. I mean, you could argue that the other ways are also very common, but this is my personal favorite way to show qualitative data. If we want, we'll do a little bit more visual stuff with pie charts, bar charts, and stuff in a little bit, or in the next video, I guess. It's not going in this one. But there you go. A little bit on design and a little bit on how to make tables in Google Sheets. And I think I will go ahead and stop the video right there.